Now, as you know, the machine that we're going to use is the life insurance policy to build our banking system. So like it or not, you have a death benefit, okay? And you're going to put premium into the policy. Now, most people think of premiums as a payment. Premiums into a policy as a payment. Well, whenever you are putting money into a whole life policy in a mutual company that pays dividends, you have to start thinking about your premiums as a deposit and not a payment. Age doesn't matter, and the death benefit doesn't matter. So let's get into this and look at this. Now, there's a lot of numbers on the screen. I'm going to make this easy for you to follow. If you look on the left, all we have here is time. These are years, year 1 to 7, 8 to 12, etc. Then you have this little column called age and death benefit. And if you notice, the age and the death benefit are not bold, right? They're a little lighter color. And the reason being is I don't want you to worry about age and death benefit. Now, this is a policy. This is an insurance policy that we're using to build our banking system. So like it or not, we have a death benefit. Now, age and death benefit do not matter. So I'm going to tell you right now, don't even worry about age and death benefit. Don't even look at those columns. Don't even worry about it. But guess what? Every time I do a live presentation, or maybe I meet with a group of individuals in person, or I do a live webinar like we're doing tonight, guess what somebody in the audience is thinking? You're thinking, Brent, I've got to know about age and death benefit. I just have to know. I see the numbers up there, and I have to know what that means. So let me explain. All right? Now, age. I don't care if you're 26, you're 36, you're 56, you're 76. It doesn't matter what the age is, okay? Let's use age 26, age 46, and age 66 as examples. You have 3 people. They're all in equal health. The only thing different about them is their age. They walk into the same life insurance store today, and they're going to buy a life insurance policy. And in this example, this column you see deposits, this is what they're going to put into their policy. They're going to put in $10,000 into their policy in this first year. Now, don't get all hung up on $10,000. I don't care if it's $1,000 or $100,000. Don't worry about the number. I will never, ever, ever tell you how much premium deposit to put in your policy. That is going to be for you to decide. You are going to tell me how much you want to put in. But in this example, this individual puts in $10,000 a year. I don't care if you put it in yearly, monthly, quarterly, twice a year. In this example, he's doing it annually, each year. So he puts in $10,000. Now, remember, let's go back to our 3 people. They're all in equal health. They go into the same life insurance store today at the same time. The only difference is their age. We have age 26, 46, and 66. They all put in $10,000 into the policy. Well, who's going to have the most death benefit? The younger one, right? Who's going to have the least amount of death benefit? The oldest one. Well, that just makes sense, right? The older you are, the less death benefit you have. The younger you are, the most death benefit you have, assuming everybody's in the same health. That just makes sense. But ladies and gentlemen, we're not doing this for death benefit. You see this column right here next to the death benefit column? It says cash in the MM account. Cash in your money multiplier account. That's why you are meeting with me tonight on this webinar, because cash is the most important thing to you. Cash is far more important to you than death benefit. As long as I solve your need for finance and cash, you will have more death benefit than you can imagine. All right? So that's what we're going to talk about is cash. Now, in this example, here's what this individual is going to do. They're going to put in a total of $10,000 a year for 7 years, a total of $70,000 year 1 to 7. And then if you notice, 8 to 12, they're not going to pay any more premium. So they're only going to put their premium in, pay their premium for 7 years, and then they're going to stop. Now, let's look over here where it says car purchases. What we're going to do is we're going to go purchase a car for $25,000, okay, in the 3rd year. Now, a couple things I want you to see here. I would never have you stop paying premium after 7 years. I want you to continue to make your premium deposits. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Brent, that's crazy. That's ridiculous. First of all, I don't want to pay $10,000 for an insurance policy. And number two, I definitely don't want to pay it for more than 7 years. Just hang with me. You'll see exactly where I'm going here by the end of the call, and you'll see why you want to continue to make the premium deposits. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go buy a car in the 3rd year. We're going to buy a $25,000 car. Now, I would never have you wait 3 years to start using the cash inside of your policy. I want you to start using that money immediately. And the definition of immediately is within the first 30 days. Within the first 30 days, you're going to start using the cash in your policy. Now, if any of you have had any experience at all with whole life insurance policies, you have never seen a policy where you're able to get cash immediately. As a matter of fact, in the 1st year, you have 0 cash value in all the policies you know about. In the 2nd year, you have pretty much 0. And in the 3rd year, not too much more than 0. I want you to start using your cash immediately, which is in the 1st month, which is in the first 30 days. But I'm only going to show you this as you're waiting, and you're going to leave it in there and not use it until the 3rd year. Now, let me say this. Let me say this. If you continue to make your premium deposits, and if you use the money in your policy earlier, the numbers I'm about to share with you only get bigger. It only improves the situation. It does not hurt it. It only makes it bigger. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to go buy a $25,000 car in year 3, and we're going to buy another $25,000 car in year 8. And what we're going to do is when we buy that car, we're going to pay ourselves back because we're borrowing the money from ourselves, yes? So we're going to play honest banker with ourselves, and we're going to pay the car loan back the same way you would pay a bank back. Remember what you told me earlier? You said that if you borrow money from a bank to buy a car, you're expected to pay them back with interest. Well, don't you think it's a good idea that if you borrow money from yourself, you pay yourself back with interest? Absolutely. But is it something you ever do? No, you never do it. What you do is you borrow money, you take money from yourself, you take it out of your checking account, your savings account, underneath your pillow, wherever you keep the money. You go buy the crap you want to buy, but you never have a system to pay yourself back. You have to start treating your money the same way you treat a bank's money. If you borrow money from a bank, you pay them back, right? So if you borrow money from yourself, pay yourself back. Treat your money the same way you treat a bank's money. So in this example, we're going to play honest banker. We're going to borrow that $25,000 and we're going to pay ourselves back with interest. We're going to pay ourselves back $500 a month for 5 years or 60 months. So $500 a month is $6,000 a year. So we pay ourselves back $500 a month or $6,000 a year for 5 years. So that's a total of $30,000. So we borrow 25, we pay back 30. Borrow 25, pay back 30. Now, let's look and see what happens here after the first 7 years. Now, again, let me go back and remind you of the question I asked you earlier. Out of all of the cars you've ever bought, driven, owned in your lifetime, how much of the money do you have today? The answer is 0. Is there anybody on this call that has any more than 0 for all the cars they've ever bought, driven, and owned up to this point in their life? So if I do nothing else but show you how to get all the money back for all the cars, it's been a pretty good evening. So let's look and see what we did in 7 years. Well, look here. Here's what we did. In year 1 to 7, we put in 10 times 7, which is a total of $70,000. We borrowed $25,000 to buy the first car. We paid ourselves back $30,000. 5 years times 6,000 is 30. So what we did is we put in 70 plus 30, which equals $100,000 that you see down here. But we took out $25,000 to buy the car, didn't we? We put in 100 and took out 25. Put in 100 and took out 25. Well, how much more did we put in than we took out? Well, 100 minus 25 would be 75,000. So 75,000 is our true net injection into this program. Well, how much cash do we have right now at the end of the 7th year? We have 67,881. And if you take 67,881, divide it into the 75,000, okay, which is your true net injection, that means you just got back 90 cents or 90% of every dollar for that very first car. Now, how do you like buying cars my way? You get 90 cents back of every dollar for that first car. But it gets better than that. Watch this, because that car wears out. So now I want you to look at year 8 to 12. Just focus on those 5 years. We now go buy another car because the other car wears out. We buy another car for $25,000. Where did that 25 come from? It comes from the 67, doesn't it? So we buy another car for 25, and now we pay ourselves back just like we were before, $500 a month, $6,000 a year for a total of 5 years for a total of 30. So we borrow 25, pay back 30. Now remember, look at this big X. Look at this big X right here. We're no longer paying premium deposit. All we're doing is taking money out of the policy, buying the car, and paying ourselves back. So we borrow 25, pay back 30. Borrow 25 and pay back 30. So how much did we put in those 5 years? Well, 6 times 5 is 30. We took 25 out. So what's our true net injection? Well, 30 minus 25 is 5. Our true net injection is 5,000. But look at the growth inside of the cash value in our account. It grew from 67 to 91. It grew from 67 to 91, which is a $23,000 growth with a $5,000 net injection. How do you guys like buying cars my way now? Probably pretty good, I hope, right? Is there anything stupid that I've been doing here over the last 12 years? No, man, I'm just living life, right? All I've done is I've put money into this stupid life insurance policy, and I'm using it for a banking system. You guys are going to buy the cars anyway. I'm just adding one step into the process of what I was doing. Now, watch this. Watch and see what we've done here over 12 years. In 12 years, this is what we did. I want you to look at year 1 to 7. In year 1 to 7, in the policy, we put in 10 times 7, or 70. We paid back for the first car, 6 times 5 is 30. And the second car, we put in 6 times 5 is 30. So we put in 100 plus 30. So what we did is we put in $130,000 into this program, but we bought 2 cars for 25 each. So we put in 130 and took out 50. Put in 130 and took out 50. So if we put in 130 and took out 50, how much is our true net injection? Well, 130 minus 50 is 80. 80,000 is our true net injection. Well, look at this number right here on line 12, the cash value in your money multiplier account. You have $91,000 of cash in there. And remember, I said we put in 130, took out 50, so our true net injection is 80. So if our true net injection is 80 and we have 91,000 in the account, how much more do we have in that account than we put in? Well, my simple chiropractic mind tells me we have $11,000 more. Not only do you have $11,000 more in the account. You also have 2 cars sitting on your driveway, a 5-year-old car that you bought new for $25,000 and a 10-year-old car that you bought new for $25,000. And those cars you've owned, driven, and used them during that entire time. They are still sitting on your driveway. You still own them. You still can use them. You can still drive them. You can sell them, give them away, donate them, whatever you want to do. So if that's true, which it is, if your true net injection is $80,000 and you have $91,000 in the account, how much did those cars really cost you to buy, drive, and own? You made 11 grand, right? Absolutely you did. So you made $11,000. Now I can't sit here and tell you that the cars cost you zero because you had to capitalize the program. In other words, you had to start. So look up here in year one. Look in year one. So like when you put in the $10,000 in the first year, so like on the cash, you didn't have the whole 10 to use, did you? But you capitalized the program because you're in this for the long term. Well, I guess I shouldn't tell you that. I should ask you, are you in this for the long term or the short term? Hopefully you said long term, and that's probably what you said. However, a lot of us get hung up in short term thinking. I would encourage you to read a book by a gentleman named Rick Warren. Rick Warren is a pastor of a church of the Saddleback Church out in California. And he wrote a book called A Purpose-Driven Life. And in that book, Rick Warren talks about life is like a marathon. It doesn't matter how you start, it only matters how you finish. This is the game of life. So again, we're in this. This is not a get rich quick deal. This is a life-changing event. Now, hopefully you see here with what I just illustrated that you're going to get all the money back on all of the cars you're going to buy, drive, and use. Now, this example I shared with you, I shared a $25,000 car. Well, how about if it wasn't a $25,000 car? What if it was a $50,000 car and instead of you paying yourself $6,000 a year back, you were paying yourself $12,000 a year? What would happen to the numbers? They would only get bigger. How about if mama and daddy had a $50,000 car? What would happen to the numbers? They would only get bigger. Now, the reason I use a car example when I present this is because most of you understand cars. I bet the majority of you on this call have either driven in a car, owned a car, or ridden in a car. So you understand cars. But let's say this wasn't a car. Could you do this with a bicycle? Could you do it with a motorcycle? Could you do it with your student loans? Could you do it with a college education? Could you do it with your vacation? Could you do it with your groceries, your gasoline? Could you even do this with taxes? Could you pay all of your taxes and get all of your money back? Absolutely you can. What about charitable giving? Could you get all the money back for charitable giving? Could you give to charity and get all your money back? Now, a couple of you are thinking on the phone call, you're thinking, well, God doesn't want me to get all my charitable giving back. I'm not supposed to get that back. If God did not want you to get all your charitable giving back, he would not have you on this webinar with me teaching it. Do you know any poor people adding wings to any churches? Probably not, right? I don't care what it is. Every depreciating asset, every liability, we are now turning into an appreciating asset. You are recycling and recapturing all of the money the same way a conventional bank does. Have you ever heard of a guy named Robert Kiyosaki? He's famous for the book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but he has a more recent book out called Second Chance. And in that book, Second Chance, Robert Kiyosaki talks about turning liabilities into assets. That's exactly what I'm showing you right here, turning liabilities into assets. Have you ever heard of a guy named Tony Robbins? He wrote the book Master the Money Game. In chapter 5.2 of that book, this is exactly what Tony Robbins talks about. Ladies and gentlemen, we are just mimicking and imitating what the wealthy are doing. Remember, this concept that I'm sharing with you has been around for over 200 years. Our tax code has only been here since 1913. There is so much you can do in this vehicle that you cannot do in any other vehicle on this planet. Now, let's talk about a couple rules. Rule number 1, as you see it pop up here under deposits. Rule number 1, pay yourself first. Now, I say pay yourself first. You guys have heard that before. You've heard people say pay yourself first. It goes in one ear and out the other. You guys never do it. You do not pay yourself first. Here's what you do. Every time you get money in your hands, you put it in somebody else's bank, and guess what you do with that money? You pay everybody else. You take your money, you pay the house people, the car people, the electric people, the gas people, the travel people, the charitable giving people. You pay everybody else and hope there's money left over for you. You have to start paying yourself first, right? Pay yourself first, then pay other people. Rule number 2, go up there and look under car loan payments. Under car loan payments, pay yourself with interest. Treat your money the same way you would treat a bank's money. If you borrow money from a bank, are you expected to pay the bank back? Absolutely right. Rule number 3, recycle, recapture every dollar that goes out of your family. You're recycling and regenerating that money the same way the wealthy does. Just to recap on the 3 rules: pay yourself first, pay yourself with interest, recycle and recapture all of your money. If this works for a car, what else does it work for? Anything else. Here's the resources I just told you about. Robert Kiyosaki, the book Second Chance, Tony Robbins, Money, Master the Game. Get those books, add them to your wealth building library. All right.